All right. Well, it says live at the top.
Yes,
So we're
we're
going to
live.
assume we're actually live. All right. Welcome, everyone who's joined. We are here to chat. This is our April chat. It's the first time we're doing this. We are going to talk about some topics that might be interesting to you if you are doing your first sprint, or maybe your first sprint in a while, or maybe it's your 50th and just thought you wanted to join because the topics were interesting. We are going to talk a bit about the kinds of things that 90 days out from your start line you should be thinking about. And we're going to talk today in no particular order about moving your training from indoors to outdoors, because it is now spring, despite the freeze warning this morning. It is now spring. And, when that weather is nice, it's a lot nicer to ride outside than on Zwift. Inside, a little bit about, what are the kinds of things you can do to gain some confidence in the swim. I know the swim, especially for first timers, is really, really challenging and scary thing, especially like in a race, if you've never been in a race. And then from a training perspective, how much is enough? Like this, in this month, 3 months from the start line, like what should you be doing? How much of it should you be doing? A little bit about work life and training balance. I know this comes up a lot in different forums. It's like, I have a full life. How do I fit all this stuff in? And training is, whether it's your first 5K, a sprint, or your first Ironman or your 50th Ironman, it's a lot to try to fit in. And if we have time, we're going to talk a little bit about some bike basics, what are the skills you should develop on your bike in those outdoor rides, as well as maybe some things you should learn mechanically. I'm Jill Bartholomew. I am the head coach and founder of Be Fierce Multisport, and we are the official coaching partner for the Delmo Sports Women's Philadelphia Triathlon this year. And joining me today is Coach Nikki, a fellow triathlon coach, April Gucciardi, who is an athlete and who will be doing this race and has done it in the past, and Sharon, who is the host of the podcast Bib and Tierra, so you should definitely check that out. And she calls herself the baby triathlete, and this is her first sprint this year at the Women's Philadelphia Triathlon. So
that'll be my second, technically.
Be your second, but the last one you said was like 23 years ago. So
no, I'm doing one in June before it.
Oh, you're not supposed to mention it.
Oh.
All right. So getting into it, I think, where do you guys think we should start? What's the most important topic to cover first?
I mean, I think in general, like, this is the event that got me into triathlon to begin with. Like, it was my very first triathlon. So it's like, why are we doing it? I think is a good place to start.
And that's a good point. Like, a lot of women in the area, this is our first triathlon. This was my first triathlon as well back in the day. I had other endurance sport experience, so it wasn't super scary, but it's the first time I pulled them all together. So why are we doing this? Why are we doing this podcast now, or this recording now? So because we're doing it because we looked at, we talked to Steve about his event as the whole reason why I wanted to kind of sponsor the women's triathlon is, we have this big opportunity here in the sport of triathlon to grow it and to grow especially the female base, right? And as we look at the numbers over the last several years, they've been pretty stable. But at the same time, you have race directors telling us that they have record numbers of first timers. So what that means is people are exiting the sport at roughly the same rate they're coming in. So in order to hopefully stem that, I think a lot of people are trying to do a lot of things to build more momentum and to build more female athlete participation in the sport at all levels, all the way up through Ironman, which is something they've struggled with, as well. And this year's Kona qualification really kind of, exemplifies that. So why this discussion? It's to prepare people. It's like, what are the things that we as coaches and as people who are familiar with the sport can do to help people to become more familiar with what to expect on race day and how to better prepare for it. That's why I'm here. Why are you guys here?
Well, and the why of this particular race for me was the first one I signed up for. We'll put it that way. And half of the reason is because Jill made me, and the other half is because I've done triathlons long time ago, like when I was very young, and I haven't done one in 25 years, I think. And now I'm going to sound like an idiot if this isn't true, but I think it's all women, right? It's only women.
I mean, it's in the name of the race.
It's the women's. I know, but you never know. And so I could have been wrong. I mean, I like that, and I also like when you told me about it, I looked and I liked that it was a pool swim because that's less scary, and I liked that the course looks like closed and manageable and like all of that. It just didn't look as intimidating. And honestly, I think as a woman, it's less intimidating to do. This is maybe sexist, but I feel like I trust women to be nicer. Like I'm a little scared of going into some of the other races I've signed up for. I think I don't expect women to like smack me in the face or like, be intimidating as much as I'm expecting that potentially from men, which might not be fair, but it's just true. Like I feel less scared about going to this one than one that is mixed.
I think that's the reality. The last 4 or 5 years, the Ironman World Championships have been separate, and it's coming back together this year, right? And you see that the swim is less chaotic. People are more spread out. I didn't quite feel that way at Kona this year, but in general, like you look at the aerials, people are more spread out, and the reports is that there's kind of it's less physical in the water, and the bikes there tends to be less drafting and kind of
aggressive passing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now that said, it's not always that way. I've definitely had my share of like people on the women on the bike and in the swim, not the run. I think the run is always fine, right? But on the bike and the swim who are who are maybe not living up to that expectation. But yeah. All right. So how about we talk first about how much training is the right amount of training? So if you go out there and Google or use ChatGPT or sign up for a service, whether it's on Training Peaks or TriDot or somewhere else, and look for a sprint triathlon plan, and you can find them on my own website. We've built some specific for this race, which is at befiercemultisport.com/Philly Tri. But if you look them up, you're going to see all sorts of different perspectives on embodied in a training plan on like what is the right training volume. And the reason for that is because everyone is coming from a different spot and everyone has different goals, right? So if your goal is to finish and you have a relatively high general level of fitness going into it, your weekly training is probably not going to be more than say like 7 or 8 hours, right? And that would be across all 3 sports. In general, for pretty much any distance, you're going to be in the pool 2 to 3 times a week, and you're going to be on your bike about 3 times a week, and you're going to be running 2 to 3 times a week. But before it gets really scary, the thing to think about is like, how long are you on it? In a sprint, right, we're talking, I think we're 400 yards on this sprint in the water, 12 miles on the bike, and then a 5K. So in a sprint, we're not talking like sitting on a bike for 3 or 4 or 6 hours at a time, right? You're talking about your long rides maybe being 90 minutes. Much beyond 90 minutes probably seems excessive most of the time, unless you're really training to be like on a podium. And if you're training to be on a podium, your training plan is going to be very different than if you're training just to finish. But I think in general for a sprint, expect be in the pool about twice a week. Once a week is probably not enough. 3 times a week, you probably don't need that third session, unless you're really struggling with the basics, right? If you have never swum, if you're an adult onset swimmer, then it might be useful. The bike, again, you should have 1 day of like really high quality training and on the bike. That would be, pushing your power, doing intervals closer to like the limits of what you're capable of in moderation, right? Like you're not going to go out and ride an hour as hard as you can. I mean, you could, but why would you, right? You're not getting any benefit of that. What you're trying to do is build a combination of endurance and muscle, right? Which equals speed. So your quality session should be about building speed. And we do that the same way we do running, with having intervals that are pushing higher paces. Another day is an easy ride. This is a heart rate based ride. It's in your heart rate zone 2. If you're on, social media, you probably hear a lot about heart rate zone 2. I've thought about making the t-shirt that says, don't mind me, this is my zone 2 run. And I always feel guilty, Right. So
I don't feel guilty. I feel like people are judging me for how slow I'm running.
Right, exactly. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, your heart rate zone 2, it's going to feel slow. But that's where you're building your energy system's capacity to grow, right? We do zone 2 for a reason. It is kind of boring. It is kind of slow. But over time, if you do enough of it, your zone 2 starts moving. And it's really interesting how like a 12-minute mile runner might in a year's time be a 10 or a 9-minute mile runner in their zone 2. Or your zone 2, what was your zone 6 might now be your zone 2. That does happen in about 12 to 18 months. It starts to move. And then a long ride once a week. Most athletes do it on Saturday, but different athletes have different schedules, right? I have a few athletes who are in EMS, some are nurses, some are firefighters, and their schedules are very different, right? They might, we'll go through and change their plan every week based on their work schedules, right? They usually are like doing like 410s or 12s even, but then they're off for like 4 or 5 days, so they'll get their stuff in the middle of the week. Your run will follow the same pattern with one difference. One of those bike rides, you're going to run after you ride, and you're going to run for like 20 minutes, and then you're going to have one quality run, and then one longer run. But there's a 5K, right, in a sprint, so your run shouldn't really need to exceed the 5K. Now, Nikki, you're also a coach. You might have a different perspective on some of that.
I definitely agree with all of that. And I think the important thing, we might jump ahead a little bit with work-life balance, but when you think about, it's important, especially as women and for any of you who are mothers, a lot of times there is guilt with training. This is something that you're trying to do for just yourself, and something else has to give. And that's okay. It's important for each of us to have goals and feel focused on those things. And a sprint triathlon is a great way to get into the sport without a huge time commitment and feel like, oh my gosh, I have to sacrifice all these other things to make it happen. And you really don't have to do that. So I think you're right on, Jill, with the amount of time that you're talking about for training in each of these aspects.
Yeah. And maybe we just go right into you talking about work-life balance. And, April, I've had the benefit of kind of watching you struggle through this for a couple years now. And Sharon, as your friend, I've seen you kind of struggle with it as well. I'm curious how you're solving for it.
Like
how do you fit everything in?
How do I fit it in? I try occasionally to do it before my kids get up. I'm a mom, like you said, Nikki. I have 2 kids. They're in school. I am fortunate in that I have a flexible job. So when I have an hour run or an hour bike ride during the week, that's my lunch hour. But there are times when I'm up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning to get it in, or as much as it sucks and I regret it, I'm doing it at like 8 o'clock at night to be able to fit it in. So it's really just the big thing on my end is being flexible but knowing I need to at least get it done, get it filled in. But then also I knew the thing with Jill's like that we've talked about is like, what can you let slip? Right? Like what is going to get you the most out of it?
So I talked a bit about this on the podcast, the Be Fierce and Try podcast. I think it was episode 32. I mean, I don't think I know because I have it right in front of me. So on episode 32, which you should definitely listen, it's about a half hour long. We were talking about how do we fit everything in what is a busy lifestyle. Like all of us are busy, right? I assume that most of us aren't just like have huge pockets of time that we're just not doing anything, right? And the reality is there's nothing is perfect. The pursuit of perfection is a fallacy. So we have to settle for like what works for us, like what is good enough. And I talked in there a lot about prioritization, setting the right priorities. So like what's important to you? You obviously have work, which pays our bills, and you have family, which is why we pay our bills and go to work. And then we have other things we want to fit in, right? And it's probably not just training for sports. So prioritize. And, in the corporate world, we would say like ruthless prioritization, right? It's of all the demands on your time, and we all have the same 24 hours, but we use it in very different ways, right? So what are the things that we're willing to spend that precious 24 hours on? Knowing that at some point we also need to get sleep in, and Garmin keeps yelling at me that I don't get 8 hours of sleep. Right. And a lot of people
take her off at night. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I don't have it on at all at night either, but it still yells at me. And a lot of people do what April just suggested, was extending your day, right? If you go to the Y at 5 o'clock in the morning, there's going to be a packed lobby waiting for them to open and start scanning people in. I know this because I go to the Y at 5 in the morning to do my swims. And there's a generally packed lobby. So you extend on either end. The problem we have, by doing that is you end up not always being able to complete your run or your whatever it is the way that you want to, because you're fatigued, you're tired, and that fatigue takes a toll. Now that said, there's an interesting statistic out there that I've seen a few times floating around, that potentially doing your workouts at night may have more benefit than doing them in the morning, because you are doing it on a fatigued body with fatigued energy systems versus in the morning when you're fresh, right? So you might actually get a little bit more out of it doing it at night. But it's all about prioritization and fitting it in. But life is a series of compromises. So as a coach, when I put together a training plan for the week or the month or whatever, some things are higher priority than others. That quality workout we talked about, that is one you should always get in. You know, whatever your training plan calls it, threshold intervals, speed work, whatever. She's having a hard time staying on today.
She's having some internet issues. Yep.
I see that. But that's when you want to get in. The other one you should try to get in without fail is your long run. That one in the middle, that easy one, is the one that I want to negotiate around first. You should still get it in if you can. But if you have to start dropping stuff, it's that kind of zone 2 work in the middle.
Let me ask you a question about that, because what I tend to do is not that, because if 80% of your training is supposed to be zone 2, right? So if I had, let's say, 2 hours of training and an hour and whatever of it was zone 2, if I drop the zone 2 stuff, now more percentage of it is turning into harder work. So I tend to like keep one quality workout, but then drop the other quality ones and do more zone 2 stuff, if that makes sense, to try to keep the balance good.
Well, it does. And the reason why what I suggested does work is your long ride and your long run tend to be mostly zone 2 anyways. So they may have some interval work built into them, but the zone 2, you know, by
if you keep that, that's a
one,
big chunk.
Yeah, with the zone 2 still built in there. And the way my plans are is like, if you have not that you would for a sprint, but if you have a 2-hour run, 20
that's
minutes
the
of
variable.
it. Yeah.
It's if you're doing long distance, if your long runs or rides are 2 hours long, then sure, dropping the easy run or ride in the middle of the week is fine. But if all of your workouts are 30 minutes, then if you drop the zone 2 ones, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh,
my brain gets a little tired when I think about these things.
I know, right? Should we let Nikki back in for the 4th time?
4th time's the charm.
4th time's the charm.
And I do want to put out there that we do have a chat going on the side. So if anybody has questions, I see a couple of people, Nicole and Lauren have both let us know that they're from the Philly Burbs. If anybody else has questions or that they want to, they're training right now and they're looking for some assistance or guidance or tips, please put them in the chat.
Now that.
So what about like swimming and things like that? Like, I don't know, like people, obviously Philly Tri is a pool swim.
Yay.
Yeah, which is nice. When I say I do this race, they always ask me if it's.
I think a lot of people sign up for it because it's a pool swim.
Yeah.
Seems so much easier.
But how do you do the pool swim in, like, what are the important things that people should be doing as part of their training for swimming for a race like this?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing is make sure that you can do the distance before race day. So getting that distance in. A normal pool swim workout should be either long intervals, short intervals, or a mix of them with a couple of drills thrown in here and there. The drills you want to do either towards the beginning or more in the middle. Don't do them at the end. And the reason for that is because you want to do a drill and then have an opportunity to use what you just drilled, in your swim, right? If you do it at the end, you're like, hey, I swam and then I did my drill and I got out. Well, by the next time you get in, it's like this repeating cycle where it didn't really have a chance. It didn't really have a chance to like take hold in your muscle memory and your psyche, and so you have to do it again. Swimming is the oddball sport where there's nothing natural about it, right? We are not
We lost her again.
we are not used to being horizontal, face down in the water. It is a really unnatural position for us. I mean, unless you have swum your entire life, but most of us, let's face it, are adult onset swimmers. Like, yes, we've grown up knowing how to swim, but swimming competitively is different, right? So I would say, like, get in the water, swim the distance, do your intervals. Getting in twice a week, I think, is really hard to compromise on. But stuff happens and we do travel, and it's not always possible to get into a pool. So I recommend to my athletes to also have a set of swim bands, which, if you're not familiar with them, they're essentially an elastic cord with handles on it that you can put on you can connect to a hook. They usually have like a little piece of fabric on it that you can put in a windowsill or a door, and they're really good for like hotel rooms. I had a situation recently where I was traveling. I had a pool swim. I couldn't get in the pool. So I had brought the swim bands with me, and I did like 20 minutes with the swim band. And I will tell you what, doing 20 minutes on the swim band, which is basically swimming with an elastic band instead of water, you feel it a lot.
Do you do a recovery? Like you do that?
Uh-huh.
You do the whole thing. Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, since you don't have to worry about breathing, you don't have to worry about sinking or drowning. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can lay down on a coffee table and swim on a coffee table. There's a company called Zen8, which sells basically an inflatable coffee table.
I've seen that.
You can take with. I have it. It's great.
Of course you do.
My husband got it for me a couple years ago. It's great. But you blow it up, and you lay down on your belly and go through the motions. Now with those, though, you can do both arms at the same time and go in the different positions, right? So like get your arms straight out, then 6 o'clock, push it back all the way, hold it, and then recover. Or you can swim like you normally would in the water. And there's lots of videos on YouTube of how to use those effectively. And they can be a good tool, but don't use them in place of going swimming, right? Every once in a while, substituting is okay, but don't use it as an excuse to not go to the pool. I know going
pool
swimming
is closed.
Well, right, exactly.
That's
like,
what I had to do over the weekend because
Easter weekend, pools were closed, pools had limited hours. I had the same problem.
My pool was open on Easter. I swam.
Wow, ours here was not.
Ours was. It was empty. It was great. I was like, I get all the lanes.
Yeah, I got up in the morning and I was like, oh darn, I should have moved this to a different day because the pool's closed. But I was not totally unhappy because it was a swim I didn't really want to do. Just the swim plan was a bit rough. So anyways, all right, there is a question.
There's a question. Yeah, that's a good one.
We do have a question. Yeah, about practicing for transition.
Yeah, I need to know this.
What is so basically what is a transition? It's that period of time, right, between each of the different disciplines. So Jill, how do people prepare for that? How do people practice?
See, I was enjoying you explaining it. No, it's great.
I have no idea. I have not practiced it at all, and I expect to totally flub it up. So I'm interested to see how one would practice.
I mean, there's only so much that can go wrong in a transition. So if you've never done a triathlon, transition is what we call the transitional time that we're going between sports, right? So you get out of the pool, you run to your bike, and you do what you need to do to prepare to get onto the bike, and then you run out. And then when you're done with the bike, you park your bike back on the rack and you do what you need to do to prepare for the run, and then you go run. And transition
I
is
just
one of
got
those.
anxiety hearing that, just by the way.
Well, you see, it feels like there's anxiety there. But when you get in and see it, you're going to realize all it is running or jogging or walking from the pool to your bike, putting on your bike shoes, your helmet, and then grabbing your bike and running, and then getting on your bike and going and riding. If you want to run it, you can run it. If you want to walk it, walk it. Transition is one of the points in a triathlon where you can lose the race really easily or, gain, because a transition can be very short and it can be very long. There are time limits. I'm not sure what they are on this race, but many races will have a time limit. So like you have to be on the bike by a certain time. But it's not uncommon for people to have like 6 to 8 minute transitions, and in longer races, 10 minutes.
That's the important part too, Jill, is that the transition time counts towards your overall
That's
time.
absolutely right.
Mhm.
Your total time is from the time your foot hits the pool to the time your foot crosses the finish line, and everything that happens in between. That means if you stop in transition and order a pizza, then that counts. Hey, you laugh, but some of the long races, I've seen people do it in transition. It's weird, but it happens. I'm practicing for that. So you're going to do your brick runs off the bike. It's a great opportunity to do your bike ride, whether you're doing it outside or on a trainer, doesn't really matter. And then, have your little transition area set up. It could be a towel with your shoes on it and, your sunglasses and a visor, whatever you would normally use in the race. Maybe you have some gels in there too. And, do your bike ride, then get off your bike and go and practice putting on your shoes and getting ready for the run, and then running. We do a brick run for 2 reasons. One is it gives you practice doing what we just described. The other is, even though, like, if you're using a tri bike, it's not quite as rough, but it's still rough either way. That transition from biking to running is really tough. To me, that's the hardest part of the race, is getting your legs back under you on the run after you've put all that effort in on the bike. Nikki, you're nodding. You look like you have something to say.
I remember just the absolute torture of my first season of racing many, many years ago. And I was like, I don't have time to run after the bike. I'm just going to put in these quality bike rides. I'll do quality runs on other days. And I did quite a few sprint triathlons. And after the first 3, where I had not practiced biking to running, I said, okay, this is awful. I don't like the way my legs feel. I need to work on this a little bit more. And it's, you can always tell what kind of fitness you're in based on how long your legs start to feel like they're actually running again, whether it takes a mile, whether it takes 2 miles, or whether, within the first couple minutes, your legs are like, okay, now we're doing something else. I'm good. But definitely practice.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where the more you practice, the easier it gets. Like you're teaching your body to do that. It's a skill it needs to learn. And if you don't teach it how to do that, then your legs are going to feel really heavy on their run. And in a sprint, it's only 5K. So by the time you reach the finish line, you might just start to be feeling good. Whereas if you did those brick runs, and they're short runs, they're only like 20 minutes. Most of the time it's 20 minutes, and they're most of the time easy runs. Like, we're not usually running race pace or even like a zone 3. The important thing with the brick is just getting the legs moving again under you and teaching your body to, like, deal with it. And it's really, the human body is an amazing thing. And after like just a few of those, it starts to get the idea that, hey, she means it. We're going to do this and she's going to make me do it. So it learns how to adapt to that.
We have another question that came in from Liz. This is actually her first triathlon, and she is wondering about the recommended fueling during the race.
So that's a really good question. And right now is the time to be starting to experiment with fueling. We'll hold this monthly, but by the time you're 4 weeks out from race day, you should have it pretty dialed in. These are short races, so you'll want to show up to the swim fueled, right? And it's a, it's 400 yards, so it's a relatively short swim, but you'll want to have fueled, whether that's eating something high carb on the way, on the way to the race, or taking a gel a few minutes before, like 15, 20 minutes before you get into the water. And then what a lot of people will do is they will take some sort of fuel in transition after the swim. Usually it's a gel because they're easy, they're cheap, they're readily accessible and less messy than carrying food with you. And then on the bike, on a 12-mile bike, it depends on your pace and your speed and how much, how fast you're exerting energy. The general rule of thumb for amateur age group athletes for fueling on the bike is about 70 grams an hour. So if your bike ride is going to take you an hour, you'd want to plan for 70 grams, which is about 2 gels. It's like 2 normal gels, like Precision, Martin, whoever.
You said Martin just to get my reaction, right? So
I know you love Martin gels.
I don't think anybody loves any gel.
I don't think so.
Well, yes, but so when you say the 70 grams in the pouches, you're talking like the little, like the whatever you get at like an expo or your running store, things like that. One of those little pouches,
right? And to be specific, we're talking about grams of carbs, not the size of the packet, right? Or the weight of the packet. And what we're talking about is the amount of glucose or sucrose that's in the gel itself, and which is the amount of energy that is providing to your body to supply the ATP reactions. That 70 grams might be too much for some people, and it might not be enough for other people, depending on your pace. So now is a good time to be playing with that. There's all sorts of different brands out there. I like the feed.com, just because they have so much variety, it's easy to get. But I mean, you can walk into Target and buy gels, Dick's, any, Roadrunner Sports and King of Prussia, Fleet Feet, whatever. They all sell them. There's different brands. I think you can pretty easily get goo.
But they want to be trying it all now, right?
Yeah.
Like this is, like you said, they want to be trying it out now to make sure it works for them. They don't have any reactions, tummy troubles.
I think we call those. I think we call that digestive distress.
Yeah,
which is the risk. Yeah.
And if you're like me, sorry to interrupt, Joe. I follow pretty much a FODMAPs diet, which means I'm super sensitive to naturally and chemically occurring sugar alcohols. So there's a lot of trial and error with gels, and I have found over time, I'm not really a gel person. I am more of a liquid person. I also have a nervous stomach before racing. And so never try anything on race day. Definitely always practice it. And what's really nice about a lot of these companies is the people who make these products want you to be successful. So they are very open to giving you their advice and their time. If you have questions about it, if you're experiencing some kind of distress, definitely reach out.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that's good advice. I know I've worked with Precision nutrition a lot, and they definitely will. I think they have it right on their website, like web chat or something, and they have a quiz you can go through to help determine how much. And then on the run, it's a 5K. If you were running a 5K standalone, you'd probably take a gel before you start, or some form of carbs, and that would be it for the race. This is kind of the same. It's like maybe take something in transition from the bike to the run. Carry something with you just in case. But these are things, as you go through your training plan, fuel in your training the same way you're going to fuel on the race. Maybe not as much, maybe less, but fuel the same way, right? And I've had a few athletes who, like, that was the difference between them nailing their workouts and having just like a horrible time, feeling lousy that they didn't hit the numbers, and it was because they ran out of fuel. Your body only stores so much that's readily accessible, and once you run out of that, the effort that it takes to get into those secondary and tertiary sources is significant. And those, the burn it, like, we all think like, well, we just burn fat for fuel when we run out of glucose in the system. Like, yes, that's technically true, but it takes a long time for that to burn, and is not very efficient, which is why we keep shoving carbs in our mouths. Except for some of
I have a question.
my friends who don't believe in.
Right. I know. It's all of us who did racing back in like the 90s. We're like,
Yeah.
carbs.
Can't have those.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
We don't eat
see,
when we
the
run.
fun
That's
thing is
crazy.
we prefer to have more people finish the race these days,
Yeah,
and fewer people
exactly.
going to hospitals.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. But here's my question. So, as a runner, like before, like in a run race, they always have like water stops. Do triathlons have those?
Yes.
On the run, yes. On the bike,
Yes.
it depends on the distance and the specific course. Most larger races will have aid stations. I'm not sure about this. Does this
They
one have an aid station on the bike?
they have not had any on the bike, no, because it's only
Right.
8-9 miles.
Yeah.
There's no
Very
aid
short.
station. They do.
Yeah, there should be one. There should be. I think there's one on the
with
run that
water.
you hit twice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you hit the same one twice.
But an important tip is with Delmo is they don't provide cups. So one of
They
the
just throw the water at you. How does that
No,
work?
you need to get one of those squishy silicone cups that you can
or
just, like,
bring your
shove in
own,
pocket.
right?
Flask.
Something
I
like
have
to
never
bring
heard of
along
this.
with you. Yeah,
That's
I've been to
they do
several
it.
races. Been to
they-
several races that are like that lately.
Yeah, I think they do it to help
The
be
environment.
eco-friendly, right? Like otherwise there's cups strewn across the floor, like the ground.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I believe they do it.
All right. So
I've done
there
this
was-
race a couple of times. So
Yeah.
Something else I need to now buy. I need a portable running cup.
They're
Yeah,
super
it's like-
cute. They just collapse flat down. A lot of them have like a hook. You can loop it to your race belt or
Yeah,
whatever.
they're like
Man,
$3.
cool.
Or you can
There
carry a
was
pint glass, Sharon, whatever.
so there was a question. So there was going back to transition. So there was a question / statement on the restream coming off of YouTube. And the question was, I've lost my bike in transition. So this is a real thing. First, like, it happens to everyone. And Nikki is laughing because I know she's lost her bike in transition.
Oh yeah.
I've lost my bike in transition.
and yours is hot pink.
Mine's very hard to miss. And this happened to me at World Championships in Marbella. I got out of the swim, and the transition was really long. And I ran down to where my bike I thought was, and it turned out it was much further down the same aisle, in the right aisle, but it's much further down than I thought it was. And I actually turned around And I'm like, no. So I wasted
Over
like 30
here.
seconds in transition because I thought I lost my bike when I hadn't. At Chattanooga 2 years ago, I ran past my bike. Like there it was on my left. I ran like to the next A-frame or 2 down, and I'm like, "Oh, crud." I ran past it, and then I turned around and got to
Are
my
there
bike.
numbers for
So
like
there
the
are.
areas?
So when you rack your
It
bike in
seems
the
like
morning.
smart.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this in more detail when we get closer to the race, but when you rack your bike, every row has a name. Sometimes they're a number, sometimes they're a letter, and, like,
Mhm.
find landmarks in transition,
There's a big tree here.
Yeah,
A
there's
porta
tree.
potty.
In the middle.
Yeah, a
Porta
grate,
potties. You can smell your
whatever.
bike then.
Yeah. You find the landmarks and you run and, find your bike eventually, or run past it if you're me.
Women,
Or
I
not
have
far
found
enough and
are-
think you did.
Women are better at it, I bet.
Women can be super creative, and I wouldn't think of this. So I'm not a creative woman, but I've seen all kinds of different, really nice Mylar balloons that people have tied to their bike, and it's like, oh, I'm that big purple
That's what I
unicorn.
was thinking. I was totally thinking, could you just put a balloon on and like tape it to your saddle and then be like,
I think
okay.
Not
I think
to
at
your
this
bike.
point,
To the rack.
yeah, I think it depends on the race director.
Yeah.
Most race directors I know will remove them.
It feels like finding your stroller at Disney World. Like you have to put like a ribbon on it or something, and so you can see it in the stroller
Kind
parking.
of, except
Similar
and
idea.
every stroller looks the same.
Yeah, exactly. And well, but at Disney World sometimes the staff people move them, which is really tricky.
Well,
At least they
and
won't do
that's the
that.
difference. The only time someone will be moving your bike for you is if you put it in the wrong spot.
Yes.
Do they assign your spot? No.
They do. When you check in, you'll get a bib number, which will correspond to your rack number.
Mhm.
Your rack
So you
has
just
a number.
you put your bike on the number on the rack that matches your bib.
Okay.
So
And
then
we can get,
get.
I was going to say, we can get to all that as we get closer, right?
All of that
we-
stresses me out so much more than the training. I'm like,
Yeah.
the training is fine, but like, where do I put my bike? And like, how am I going to find it? And how do I change my,
Totally.
what am I supposed to swim in? Like,
So
how do I
we
run
will
with
talk
a
about
bike?
this.
Sharon, take a breath.
This too shall pass. It will be fine.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a lot more about this as we get closer. Okay. So, did my video freeze?
Not on my end.
It did freeze for me,
Yeah.
but I can hear you fine.
Oh, goodbye, Jill. Welcome back, Jill. Goodbye, Jill.
Am I back?
Nope, you're still
I can
frozen.
still hear you, but I can hear you,
Yeah.
but you're frozen.
Oh no.
But you don't have crazy face, so it's
No,
okay.
you look okay. You look serious, not like
Yeah, you look
crazy.
fierce.
Yeah, fierce. Yes, she looks fierce.
Well, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, let's fix the video. While everybody waits. One of the things.
While we wait, because I think, Jill, I don't know how long you were hoping to have this discussion, but if anybody has some final questions, I know Jill's gonna be doing this on a monthly basis in the lead up to the event. But yeah, if you have training questions, because right now people are probably starting their training or they're in the midst of their training. What do you want to know?
Yeah. And there's no question too silly. Whatever you're thinking of, someone else is definitely thinking of it or has thought about it and wants to ask, but is afraid to ask. So definitely get it out of your head so that we can answer it for you.
I know
we did
when we were talking
about
transition. I mean, I've tried to run out of transition with my helmet still on into the bike race. And I would have continued on if a volunteer hadn't pointed it out to me. So things happen. Just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
You just can't. I saw a video. I don't know what race it was from, but somebody did that and they weren't disqualified because they kept holding it. Like they kept it.
Yes, if you take it off and hold it, as long as you don't wear it,
as long as you don't get rid of it
to run with, but
and they weren't allowed to like toss it. Like they had to like
correct.
keep it with them. I'm sure they go over all those rules, but like that I'm also probably going to disqualify the first couple times I do this because there's so much rules.
All right. So what topics did we say we were going to cover and we didn't?
Training outdoors or bike information or play.
Oh yeah, moving or training outdoors. Be safe. Number one.
Yes.
So we are fortunate. This race is relatively flat. There's one hill. You get to go down it. And
Yay!
Then because T1 and T2, both transitions are in the same place, you get to also go back up because what goes down must go back up. So, but aside from that, little hill, and it is little. It's not very long. Aside from that, it's a long, straight, flat-ish course. So if you're feeling more comfortable on like rails to trails, like I know in the Philly area, we have a great, system of trails, whether it's the CVT, the SRT, Perkiomen, any other number of local trails. For this race, that works perfectly fine. For some other longer races, you'll want your training to kind of follow the profile of the course, right? If you're doing something like Placid, you might want something that has some hills in your diet. But this is a flat race, so sticking to the trails is fine. If you're out on the road, make sure that you've got safety equipment. I like people to have radars. So radar coupled with a bike computer, you can have knowledge of where the cars are in relationship to you, so you can see that there's a car coming towards you and how fast they are roughly. And they'll give you an alert when they start approaching. That way you're aware. Because cycling on the road, it's not without danger. And then, but at minimum, have like a flashing red light on the back of your bike.
Yeah.
The days of just having a reflector are gone. Have that flashing red light to actively let the people who are coming up behind you know that you're there, right? And of course, have a helmet that's in good shape. That's, every helmet has an expiration date, and that expiration date is printed on a sticker on the inside of the helmet. Make sure that date has not passed. So it should be relatively new within the last 4 years. And then go out and have fun. On your training plan, if you're going to do some intervals, do your intervals on your bike outside, just like you would inside. But now you don't have a trainer that's enforcing your interval. So you kind of have to be a little bit more aware of that. If you're riding on a lot of hills, the intervals are just going to come by nature of the fact that you're doing the hills, right? If you're on a really flat course, you're going to need to be a little bit more thoughtful about how you do it. And if it's crowded, you might have to give up an interval because you need to be safe for yourself, but also for the other people around you, because you are a moving vehicle and you're moving faster than them, and you are responsible for not hitting them.
I learned something today about outside riding.
Oh, yeah?
I learned about headwind.
Oh, yes.
I went,
A little different on the legs.
I texted Jill what I should wear because it was 50 degrees out. I was like, I don't know what to wear. You nailed it. What I wore was perfect, but I did not anticipate what would happen when I turned around, and it was like, I said I felt like Dorothy. No, not Dorothy, the Wicked Witch, when she's outside the window, like riding her bike through the wind. That's what I felt like. It was crazy. And if I was only training inside, I would have not known how to handle that. But holy cow, that was intense.
But the ride out was fantastic, I'm sure.
Oh my God, yes. I was like,
You
I'm
were-
just doing
You were
25
booking it and
miles an
not even
hour.
trying. Yeah.
And it's so easy. And then I turned around and I was like, oh, that was why. Oh my God.
yeah,
It was so hard.
You found out why.
I did. But I'm glad I practiced
Yeah.
it because it was challenging. Like it.
Yeah. And the other
feel it.
aspect, riding outside before this race or any race, you have to do some outside riding. Even if
For
it's
sure.
picking a couple of easy rides too. And the reason for that is less about the training effect and more about learning how to handle your bike. Your bike handling is not just about making sure it goes in the direction you want it to go, but also like when to stop, how to stop, how do your brakes work? You know, if you have disc brakes, squeezing those too tight will definitely put you over the handlebars. And if you're in the right situation, it might also do other damage to the bike. If you're on rim brakes, they take a little bit longer to slow down, especially if it's wet. So like learn how your specific bike and the way it's specifically set up handles. And, you know, turns, they're a thing. This course has a lot of straight, but it also has turns. And, you know, you want to be able to negotiate them and keep the rubber on the road and none of your body on the road. So, you know, go out, ride, you know, even if it's just through your development. And,
I do
you know,
turns real slow.
well, that's okay.
That's okay.
But you stay upright.
Yeah.
And that's the point is, you know, staying upright. There was in one of the Facebook groups, there was a gentleman who had owned up to at Oceanside falling off his bike on a turn, and someone else had come in and said kind of said all the nasty things that you can predict, and my response was, at Ironman Texas last year, I had a pro female fall right in front of me on a turn. Like, it happens. And it happens to people who spend a lot of time on their bike and who train at a very high level, right? These are not people who lack bike handling skills. It's just sometimes bad luck happens. But do everything you can to take luck out and develop the bike handling skills. The other thing to get used to, and if you're riding on a trainer, especially if you're using erg mode on the trainer, is learn how your gears work and learn how to shift them. Because if you don't, race day could be really rough. But yeah, being in the right gear, and someone who's an athlete of mine but will remain nameless may have ridden an entire 70.3 in the wrong chain ring.
I will just call myself out on that one.
On the front?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's a rough ride.
The small one?
I mean,
were you on the small one?
I was yes, I was on the small one.
Oops.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I mean, fortunately,
her coach was wondering why she was going so slow.
And pedaling so fast.
Hard.
It was a pretty flat course, but still, yeah.
Yeah. But again, stuff happens, and go out, ride outside, enjoy yourself, have fun, build those bike handling skills, right? Yeah. Find some hills, go down them, learn what it feels like to go down a hill, and then turn around and go back up it and learn what it feels like to go up a hill. Like on the trainer will teach you how to build the power for the hill, but there is, from just a pure practical, like, how do you do it in real life? There's no replacement for going out and doing it on a road. But again,
also,
like,
it's more fun.
Yeah. But be safe about it. Okay. I think that's what I wanted to say on the bikes. Do you guys want to add anything? So Sharon, this is your first sprint. Do you have any other questions we should be talking about before we end?
I mean, I'm sure I'll have more, but thankfully it's not happening next week. I think that's as much new information as my brain can handle. Now I got to go buy a cup. That was gold. I would have been so upset. I would have been like, what do you mean I need a cup? What is this nonsense?
Well, that's fun.
Like, will you just pour it in my mouth?
It's either bring a cup or bring your own hydration system.
Hydration system. Yeah.
Like I always run with a belt with bottles. So I don't necessarily need to worry about it, but some people might not do anything like that.
That's my next bike handling skill that I'm working on, is how to drink water. I'm working on that. Yeah.
Practice.
That is a skill.
Yep.
That is a skill. And we didn't talk about that, but yeah. Learn how
More to be
to
revealed.
take a bottle out of the bottle holder, use it, put it back
Mhm.
in.
That's maybe a topic for the next
May.
Yeah.
the next
Yep.
chat in May, right?
Nice.
And if people have specific things that they want us to cover, Jill, is there a place to send those questions?
Oh, that is a
Would there
fantastic.
be?
That is fantastic question. So if you have other questions that you would like us to either address one-on-one or in a future session, please either email me, Jill at befiercemultisport.com, or DM that to, I guess, me on LinkedIn, or not LinkedIn,
Instagram or whatever.
Instagram at the Try Mom is my personal one, or at Be Fierce Multisport. Either one works. They all go to the same place. That's the beauty of technology today.
Also, Jill, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to, and just a prompt for people, and a link to the Philly Try page of your website. So I'm sure people can get to you that way too.
Yay.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're looking for someone to help you with your triathlon, especially if it's your first one, but if you're looking for someone to help, give me a holler. You can find all sorts of information on that webpage, befiercemultisport.com/PhillyTry. And we will be doing another one of these in May. So keep an eye out for details on that. And if you did sign up at the link before today, that was the fiercely / aprilchat. We have your email address, and we'll send you we'll send you details on when the next session will be. If you didn't, keep an eye out on social media.
Yay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I hope this was useful. I would love your feedback. If you are live on the Riverside chat, you should receive an email after this with a place to provide some feedback. If not, feel free to message me, like we said, on Instagram at the Try Mom. And thank you again. All right. Take care. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.